Okay, everybody, welcome to today's live stream. This is the first live stream I've ever done on YouTube. If you can hear me, if you can see me, let me know in the chat. I want to do a quick communication check. If you can hear me, if you can see me, let me know in the chat. Okay, looks like the connection is working, guys. If suddenly it doesn't work, then you can just leave the live stream and come back. So, as promised, we're celebrating 2 million followers on Instagram. It's absolutely amazing. I never thought 2 million was possible. I never thought 1 million was possible, but here we are, 2 million followers. I just want to say thank you so much to every single one of you who's followed me, who's learned English from me, and who's allowed me to help you on your journey. So today we're going to talk about a few things. First, we're going to talk about speaking with confidence. Speaking with confidence. How to feel less nervous and more confident when you speak English. After, I'm going to teach some vocabulary to you, and then there's going to be a chance to ask questions at the end. Let's get into it. And first of all, I want to ask you a few questions. Do any of these sound familiar? I'm worried people are judging me for my accent. I'm worried people can't understand me. I'm worried people think I'm speaking too slowly or too quickly. I'm nervous, and this is preventing me from expressing my thoughts. Let me know if any of these problems sound familiar. They're super common, super normal. I experience some of them whenever I try to learn a new language, so I completely understand if you feel this is difficult. Let me know in the chat. I see some of you guys experience a few of them, some of you experience all of them. Again, completely normal, nothing to worry about. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about how to fix this. Now, before we continue, I want to remind you, don't forget to subscribe here on YouTube. I'm going to be posting more videos in the future, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Okay, let's continue, guys. First of all, I want to ask you, what do all these problems have in common? Well, they're completely psychological. They're in your head. And they may or may not be based in reality. But that doesn't actually matter. Because if we want to solve these problems, we need to identify their source. We need to identify where they come from. And the source of these problems is your mindset. In English, we use the word mindset to talk about how you think about things. We say mindset. So how you think about learning, how you think about studying, how you think about speaking, how you think about yourself, self-confidence. That's all part of mindset. So, let's talk about the two main parts of language learning. Now, when you learn a language, you shouldn't just focus on grammar. You shouldn't just focus on vocabulary. You shouldn't just focus on pronunciation. These are important, of course, but these are what we call the technical aspects of the language. They're technical. They're important, but they're not the only part of language. We also have to work on our mindset. And when we talk about mindset, we talk about things like feeling comfortable when you speak, feeling like you're good enough, not feeling self-conscious about your accent or pronunciation. So there's two sides of language. There's the technical side, and then there's the psychological mindset side of language. Lots of times students and even teachers only focus on the technical aspects, but you have to focus on both equally. So it's super, super important. Now, moving on, let's first of all talk about why you need to work on mindset. If you only focus on the technical side of a language, you won't become fluent. It's just not possible. You might be good at grammar, you might be good at reading, you might have good writing skills, but when it actually comes to speaking, you won't sound natural and you'll feel nervous. Eventually, you might actually grow to hate speaking English, and that's a horrible thing. We don't want you to hate the English language. Learning a language should be something you enjoy. It should be something fun. Now, let's look at this common problem. Lots of students tell me, I'm worried people are judging me. I'm worried native speakers are judging me. I want you to do a little exercise here. Ask yourself this. Has anyone to your face ever criticized your level of English? Have they ever said something negative to you to your face? There are two answers, yes or no. Okay? Yes or no. Now, if you're like most students, the answer is probably no. Probably nobody's actually criticized your level of English to your face. They've probably never insulted you. And if that's you, then you have to allow yourself to see that this fear is not rational. It's simply not rational. It's not based in reality. Because you're thinking that something's happening, but you have no proof, you have no evidence to suggest that that's true. Obviously, I don't want to say that nobody judges you or nobody criticizes you, because sometimes people do. And if you're one of the people, and it's a small group of people, it's a small percentage, but if you have been criticized, if you have been insulted maybe, or made to feel bad about your level by somebody, I want you to ask yourself, what did they say? What did they say? Maybe they criticized your accent, maybe they criticized your grammar, maybe they couldn't understand you. Think about the words they said. Think about what they actually told you. Now, why does it matter? Why does it actually matter what they think of you? See, when you give someone power to influence your feelings, you care about their opinion, you're giving them power, you're allowing them to control your emotions. And 99.9% of the time, somebody who judges you, somebody who criticizes you for learning another language, doesn't deserve that power. Maybe you saw my reel recently on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. I introduced a little thought experiment to you. I said, look, if somebody criticizes your level of English, there's a good chance they only know one language, because anybody who's learned a second language knows that making mistakes is part of language learning. So if somebody's criticizing you, if somebody's judging you, if they're insulting you for making a mistake, they've probably never learned another language. And that means they only know one language. You know two languages. So the problem isn't you, it's them. And that's why it's super important to try to detach yourself from the opinions of others when it comes to this. Now, I don't want to say that the opinions of other people never matter, because sometimes they do, okay? Sometimes maybe your boss, maybe your employer, maybe your colleague is making what we call constructive criticism. That's okay. If they're making constructive criticism, they're trying to help you, they're trying to build you up. But there's a huge difference between constructive criticism and insulting someone. And if someone insults you and you give them that power, to influence your opinions or your thoughts, your emotions, then that's a power they don't deserve. So try to stop caring what other people think about you, because to be honest, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's move on. As I said, it doesn't actually matter what most people think. And I do want to ask you, if someone's learning your language, would you judge them for having an accent? Would you judge them for making mistakes? Probably not. You'd probably be impressed. You'd probably be happy. You'd probably be maybe even flattered that they're taking the time to learn your language. Now, it's the same with English speakers. Even though English is such an international language, people are people. English speakers are just like anybody else, most of them, and they're impressed when people try to learn English. So again, first of all, don't think that people are judging you, because most of the time they're not. Second of all, if someone does judge you, their opinion shouldn't matter to you. Now, we've talked about the cause of these problems, the cause of feeling nervous. But if I just tell you, change your mindset, change the way you think, it's not going to help you. And it's not going to help you because you're missing a key ingredient in this recipe. You're missing the action part of it. You need to take action. You need to actually do things that are going to help you feel more confident. Now, what does this look like? Well, first of all, I want to introduce to you the concept of positive and negative feedback loops. A positive feedback loop is when one action has a positive effect. This creates another positive action, and so on and so on. So one action has a positive, a good effect, that creates another good action, which creates another good action, and you're in an upward cycle. A negative feedback loop is the exact opposite. So when one action has a negative effect, it creates another negative action, which creates another negative action and another negative action, and so on and so on. So that's not where we want to be. We want to be in a positive feedback loop. We want to continue to improve, not to keep getting worse. And if you're feeling nervous, and you feel nervous, so nervous this prevents you from speaking, this means you're in a negative feedback loop. You need to get out of this as soon as possible. This is critical. It's so important to escape this negative feedback loop. Let's look at this here. So let's say you feel nervous, and you feel so nervous you don't want to speak. You're being prevented from speaking. But what happens if you don't speak? You don't get speaking practice. And if you don't get speaking practice, your English won't improve. It will actually get worse. And if your English gets worse, you're going to feel even more nervous. So you can see this is a downward cycle. It's a negative feedback loop. That's why it's so important to break this cycle. And when you're in a positive feedback loop, you know you're in a positive feedback loop because you speak. Maybe you do make a few mistakes, but you quickly realize that nothing bad happens. What's the worst that's going to happen? The sun still rises tomorrow. You still wake up tomorrow. The world still moves. Nothing changes if you forget the past participle of an irregular verb. Nothing changes. Nothing bad happens if you make one or two mistakes. And when you realize that, it allows you to completely change the way you think, because suddenly you're going to feel more confident to speak. And if you feel more confident to speak, you'll speak more. And the more you speak, the more natural you'll sound, the more fluent you'll become, and the more confident you'll become. So that's the positive feedback loop. That's where you really, really, really want to be. And how do you actually break this negative cycle? So the solution here is to break the cycle exactly where the problem lies. And let's say you're in a conversation with someone. Suddenly you feel nervous, you feel scared, you don't want to open your mouth. That moment when you feel nervous to speak, that's the exact place you need to break the cycle. It's that very moment, that's the critical moment when you feel nervous, when you don't want to speak. You need to break the cycle here. And when you do this, you actually turn your fear into success. So this moment is the source of your speaking anxiety. This is where you have the power to change everything. You can go into a positive feedback loop, or you can continue to go into a negative feedback loop. So if you know that this moment will change your English forever, you should actually be excited about it. You shouldn't feel anxious about it. It should be something you look forward to. It's an opportunity, and it's a chance to improve your English. I know it will be difficult. Anytime you're in a conversation, anytime you're talking to somebody, you feel nervous, you don't want to speak, yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's unnatural. You don't want to do it. But like anything in life, the more you do it, the easier it will become. And you'll be able to turn this negative feedback loop into a positive one. So the most difficult moment is actually getting into the conversation and starting to speak. I often tell my students in my club that it's like taking a cold shower. So if the water is super, super cold, probably you don't want to get in the water. The moment when you enter the water is the most difficult. It's the most uncomfortable because your body's not used to it. But after 30 seconds, after 45 seconds, you get used to the cold water and you realize it's not actually that bad. You're getting adjusted, you're getting more comfortable. And after you get out of the shower, a cold shower, you're probably going to feel accomplished. You're probably going to feel happy that you put yourself in that uncomfortable situation. It's the same with learning English. It's the same with speaking. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to get into that position where you know it's going to be difficult, but you still do it. Because you're not thinking of the short term, you're thinking of the long term. So, perfectionism. I promised you guys I would speak about perfectionism. And if you're a perfectionist, I want you to let me know in the chat. You can type the number 3 or you can write the word yes. Let me know in the chat if you're a perfectionist. I see a few perfectionists in the chat. Super common. Super, super, super common. And look, I completely understand, guys, because I'm a perfectionist myself. I want everything I do to be perfect. Whether it's with my friends, with my family, with my teaching, I want everything I do to be perfect. And perfectionism can be a good thing because obviously you want to do your best. You want to make a difference and you want to be the best you can be. That's positive. But perfectionism is also your enemy. Perfectionism stops you from speaking. Because if you're constantly worried about making mistakes, if you're constantly thinking, oh, I have to be perfect, I need to use grammar perfectly, I need to use the perfect word, I need to do this perfectly, and this prevents you from speaking, remember, when you don't speak, you're in a negative feedback loop. You're going down, and that's not where you want to be. And I want you to remember that the purpose of language, whether it's verbal language or it's sign language, it's any sort of communication. It's not perfection. It's communication. It's expressing your ideas, getting your message to the other person. And lots of students tell me that they're always waiting for the perfect moment. They're always waiting for the moment when, suddenly They'll wake up, everything will feel perfect, they'll feel confident, they'll feel comfortable, they'll feel fluent, and they expect it to happen just like that. Obviously, it doesn't. There's never going to be the perfect moment. Even if you're at C1, even if you're at C2, even if you're a native speaker. For example, I get nervous when I speak in public, in front of a lot of people. I'm fluent in English, it's my native language, I teach English, but I still get nervous. And if I told myself, oh, I'll just wait until suddenly I don't get nervous, then I would never speak. I would never improve, because it doesn't happen like magic. Life is naturally imperfect, and it's always going to be confusing, it's always going to be uncomfortable, and you can't be waiting for something that doesn't exist. So look, there's no perfect moment. You can't wait for that perfect moment. Okay, I lied. There is a perfect moment. The perfect moment is right now. The perfect moment is the present. We say in English, there's no time like the present. So if you feel nervous to speak, speak now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait till next week. Speak now. It's never going to get better unless you take action soon. So important. Okay. Now, I want to ask you guys a few questions, and then we're going to move on to some vocabulary. Let me know in the chat, what's your biggest problem when it comes to learning English? And let me know in the chat, have you ever had problems learning English in the past that you were actually able to overcome? Maybe 2 years ago you had problems with grammar, but now you're great in grammar. And think about that and tell me in the chat, how did you succeed in overcoming these problems? What did you actually do to fix these? Let me know in the chat. As you guys are answering, I'm going to quickly pull up our next presentation. We're going to talk about daily routines. We're going to talk about everyday vocabulary. Okay, here we are, guys. Advanced vocabulary. So this is C2, C1, maybe upper intermediate as well. It's not super precise, but I'm hoping that you will be able to learn some new vocabulary today. The first word on our list is an errand. An errand. An errand is a noun. Maybe you've heard this before. It's a small task, it's a small job that needs to be done outside of the house. You run errands. That's the collocation. You always say you run errands. For example, grocery shopping, picking somebody up from school, going somewhere, doing something necessary. It's a task, it's an errand. For example, I have so many errands to run today. I have to go to the post office, the bank, and to the grocery store. So many errands to run. You run errands. On Saturdays, I usually finish my errands early so I can relax for the rest of the day. I usually finish my errands early so I can relax for the rest of the day. An errand. And you run errands. You always run errands. Now, the next word on our list, chores. So, if errands are outside of the house, chores are inside the house normally. Chores are normally inside the house. For example, after dinner, I do my chores, such as washing the dishes and cleaning the dining room. Those are chores. You wash dishes, you clean the room. When I was younger, my dad said I had to finish all my chores before I could play outside. Errands are normally outside of the house. Chores are normally inside of the house. Not always, but if I had to give you a rule, that would be the rule. Now, let's look at a verb. This is something sometimes I'm guilty of. I'm sure you're all guilty of this too sometimes. To procrastinate. I want you to repeat after me. To procrastinate. Procrastinate. And if you procrastinate, it means you deliberately, so purposefully, delay or postpone tasks you need to do. You're always saying, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next week. You're procrastinating. For example, I sometimes procrastinate by watching TV instead of doing my homework. I sometimes procrastinate by watching TV instead of doing my homework. I learned the hard way not to procrastinate when working on projects for school. I was up until 3 a.m. last night. To procrastinate. Now the noun is procrastination. Procrastination. I'm sure you've all procrastinated before. Let me know in the chat if this is something you've been guilty of recently. Procrastination. Okay, let's talk about an idiom. Remember, idioms are phrases that are used to describe things that aren't literal. So just by looking at the phrase, at the idiom, you wouldn't be able to understand what it means. They have special meanings. This idiom, to burn the candle at both ends, means you go to bed late and you get up early. Normally, we talk about burning the candle at both ends when you work really hard. You're going to bed late, you're getting up early, you're not getting much sleep. For example, you can only burn the candle at both ends for a short amount of time before you get burnt out. Burning the candle at both ends can make you feel tired all of the time and usually less productive. Now, let's talk about a noun. Time slot. A time slot. A time slot is a specific period of time allocated for a particular activity. We say time slot. For example, our family has a time slot for dinner at 7:30 p.m. every evening. That's the specific period of time we allocate for dinner. We say time slot. My mom scheduled my piano classes for the same time slot every Monday. Time slot. It's a noun. And it's 2 words. Time slot. Now, little quiz time. Let's test our knowledge. Number 1. I always seem to have at least one blank to run during my lunch break, so I don't actually have time to relax. Just gonna make myself a bit smaller here so you can see all the options. Number 1, I always seem to have at least one blank to run during my lunch break, so I don't actually have time to relax. Okay, I'm seeing the correct answer. Errand. You run errands. I always seem to have at least one errand to run during my lunch break, so I don't actually have time to relax. Number 2, if there is something I don't want to do, I always, instead of getting it finished as quickly as possible. You delay it, you postpone, you procrastinate. You delay it and you don't want to do it, you're procrastinating. Number 3, sharing always helps to keep our home clean and tidy. Sharing chores. Sharing chores always helps to keep our home clean and tidy. Number 4, I know that it's not healthy for your body, but sometimes it's inevitable. Something that's inevitable has to happen. It's inevitable. I know that when you burn the candle at both ends. Number 5, sometimes it's difficult to find the right blank for a doctor's appointment because I'm always so busy. Yes, the right answer here is time slot. Time slot. Okay, wonderful. Let me know in the comments how many of these you got right. 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, or 5 of them, all of them. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear how you did. Okay, guys, so we've talked about feeling confident. We've talked about some vocabulary. Now, I want to use this time to answer any questions you have. Again, thank you so much for 2 million followers on Instagram. When I started in 2022, I never thought this would have been possible. I remember I first started on TikTok. It was December 16th, 2022. And a few weeks later, I went to Instagram, and yeah, here we are. It's been a bit over a year, but it's been a tremendous journey, and it's all thanks to you. So thank you so much for all your support. I really, really appreciate it. I'm so grateful to be able to help you, to hear your feedback on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm going to use this opportunity now to answer a few questions. So let me take a look at the chat here. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. If you're here, you probably have subscribed, but if you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Okay, how to improve listening skills to native speakers when they speak fast? Yeah, great question. So native speakers use something called connected speech. Connected speech. Connected speech is essentially the way we connect words when we speak quickly. For example, going to becomes gonna. I'm gonna. Want to becomes wanna. I wanna. I need to becomes I needa, etc. So one of the reasons you can't understand native speakers when they speak like that is because you're not used to it. You don't know these connections, these linking ways of speaking. And I talk a lot about this in both my course and in my club. I believe I have a lesson on YouTube as well on connected speech. I'll write it in the chat here. Connected speech. Connected speech. If you want to join my course, take a look at the video description. You can go to club.englishattheready.com/course. It's a monthly membership, and there's lots of video lessons and a few on connected speech as well. So if you want to join, you want to learn more about the course, just check it out in the description of the video. How to improve vocabulary? Good question. So when we talk about improving our vocabulary, we're talking about two things. We're talking about learning new vocabulary, and we're talking about remembering the vocabulary. You need both of these, because if you just learn the vocabulary and you forget it, there's no point. If you don't learn the vocabulary, well, you can't remember it. So you need to learn new vocabulary, but you also need to remember it. And the best way to learn vocabulary, and I talk a lot about this in my club, is to surround yourself with the English language. You should ideally, it's better to do it more, but if you can, 50% of your life should be in your native language. The other 50% should be in English. Imagine how a child learns a language. They don't sit down, they don't study grammar textbooks, they don't study all this theory or all these rules. They are in a world where they hear the language every day from their parents, from TV, from their friends, and that's the most natural way to learn. Obviously, as adults, we don't have that advantage that we can learn language so easily, but it's still possible to replicate that environment. And little things in your life. For example, listening to the radio. Let's say you're in the car on your way to work. You normally listen to the radio in your native language. Change that to English. Your phone, it's in your native language. Change that to English. Maybe you read the newspaper on your phone, or if you're old school, you have the physical paper in your native language. Find an English one. So it's about replacing as much as you can in your native language with English. And that way, you're going to absorb new words. You're going to surround yourself with an English-speaking environment, which is so important if you want to learn naturally. Great question. Suzanne, it's the same way when we talk about thinking in English. So it's the same thing. Imagine you're a child, right? Imagine you're learning your first language. How do you do that? You surround yourself by it. You hear it from your parents, from everybody. And that's how you eventually acquire the language. So now as adults, yes, we study videos, we study courses, we study, in my club, we study all sorts of different things, which is amazing, it's useful, and it's necessary as well as an adult. But you have to try to combine it with an English-speaking environment. If you're in the US or Canada or the UK, it's easier because you're surrounded by English. But even if you're in your own country, you can still do it. You can still replace certain things. As I mentioned, maybe you like reading certain books, read them in English. Maybe you, for example, listen to a podcast, do it in English. So the more you can do in English, even if it's in the background, even if it's completely passive, the more you do that, the more you'll be able to start thinking in English and not to have to translate from English or from your own language into English. Okay. Marzia, if you can't attend right now, you can always watch the recording here on YouTube later. So make sure to subscribe here on YouTube. You can always watch the recording of this live stream later. It's going to be available on my channel, English at the Ready. For everybody else who hasn't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to be posting more videos here on YouTube. So subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. I'm from Canada. Okay, how can I improve my pronunciation? Yes. My number one tip for pronunciation would be something called shadowing. Maybe you've heard of shadowing. It's a technique where you listen to something, you listen to a TV show, a movie, maybe it's just a conversation with a native speaker, and you imitate them. You try to mimic the pronunciation. Imagine you're a parrot. I give this analogy all the time. Imagine you're a parrot, right? What do parrots do? They imitate, they mimic. Actually, there was a restaurant I was at a few years ago. They used to have parrots. Now they don't have parrots anymore because apparently people were teaching those parrots bad words. So the parrots would start to say these bad words. And it got me thinking, you know, parrots imitate, they can learn like that, but we can too, even with our second language. So let's say you're watching a movie. You watch the whole movie. It's an American movie. At the end of the movie, you take 2 minutes. It can be any 2 minutes of the movie. Just take those 2 minutes. Watch them again. Turn on the subtitles. You can turn them off. You can turn them on. Watch it a few times. It's just those 2 minutes. And then, after you've listened to it a few times, listen to it again. But after each sentence, pause the video and imitate the pronunciation. Try to really think about how the actors are pronouncing the words. And I also recommend looking at where the facial muscles are, because people don't realize this. And if you're in my club, you know that I talk about this all the time. But the way you move your mouth depends on the language you speak. So it's possible to, not always precisely, but you can generally see, even without hearing, you can tell what language someone's speaking just by the way they move their mouth. English speakers, especially Americans, lots of open movements. We open our mouth a lot. But other languages, they don't open their mouth a lot. They just close it a bit like this. So focus on where the tongue is, focus on where the lips are, where the facial muscles are, because that's going to really help you improve your accent. That's what I have identified as the secret ingredient to improving your accent. Because yeah, you can listen, but you also have to put your muscles in the same place they are as a native speaker. So do that. It's called shadowing, where you watch 2 minutes, you imitate, and you observe. You can do this 15 minutes every day. It will really, really help you. Okay, I'm technically Canadian. Well, not technically, officially Canadian. I was born in Canada. Canadian English is a bit like American English. The accent is very, very similar. Depends where you're from. There can be some differences. But Canadian spelling and Canadian vocabulary is a combination of British and American spelling and vocabulary. Canada has obviously British history. We were once part of the British Empire, but we're so close to the United States, we have a lot of influence from the US. So it's a bit of a mix, but I'm from Canada. Okay, have I ever been to India? No, I haven't been to India. Actually, India seems like a beautiful place. I would love to visit. If you have any recommendations, let me know. A recommendation to join the club. Thank you so much. Yes, guys, if you do want to speak with people, if you do want to learn from me, from my team, we're all native speakers, we have lots of resources for you, then you can join my club. I don't have the link to join my club in the description. I just have the link to join my course. The club is an environment, it's a monthly membership where you have group classes, you have live classes with me, you have video classes, you have resources, you have support. So it's everything you need in one place to improve your English. You can go check out the link in the description, club.english@theready.com. Again, you can join the club if you want live classes, but if you're a bit busy, you don't have time for live classes, or maybe you want something else, you can also join my course. The link to join the course is in the description. It's video classes every week, and you also have an amazing library of classes. So go check that out. Suzanne, I always have problems with prepositions. Is there a rule when you say to, at, by, in, on? Yeah, you're not alone. Prepositions can be a big problem. Unfortunately, there aren't always rules. It's one of those things you have to memorize. When we talk about prepositions, we need to differentiate between prepositions of time, prepositions of place, prepositions of manner, for example. There are differences between these. And again, it's one of those unfortunate facts. Every language has something that's difficult. I believe that this is one of the most difficult things about English. These prepositions just have to be memorized. So it really depends on the verb. It depends on the context. It depends on the word. And my recommendation is when you learn a new verb, when you learn a new word, always learn at the same time, always learn the preposition that goes with it. It's so important, because if you don't learn the preposition at the same time, you only learn the word, then later you're going to have to learn the preposition again. So you're making basically twice the work for yourself. That's why it's so important, if you want to memorize them and you want to use them correctly, you learn them at the same time. Now, Suzanne, you are in the club, I know, so you can also find lots of videos on phrasal verbs, if you've seen those in the video library. Super important. There are prepositions there, phrasal verbs, combination of verbs, prepositions, and particles. So go check those videos out, Suzanne. They're really going to help you. For everybody else, if you want to improve your phrasal verbs, if you want to improve your prepositions, go check out the English at the Ready course, the English at the Ready Club. The link to sign up is in the description. Okay, do we have some other questions? Yes, we do. How do we pronounce B and P? Okay, so pronunciation. When we pronounce words, we always focus on where the muscles are in our mouth, because different words have different positions. And if you were in the club, you might have remembered the masterclass I gave about a month ago on pronunciation. So go check that out if you haven't in the club. But B, look at my mouth. B, 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 B. B, B. P, P, P. So B, the mouth is almost like this. B, B, B. P, I'm spreading horizontally. P, P, P. B, P, B, P. That's the difference. And that really illustrates the importance of knowing where the muscles are in the mouth, right? Are they stretched? Are they closer together? It really impacts the pronunciation, even of little sounds like that. Silent letters, yeah. So silent letters are a huge problem in English. First of all, why do silent letters exist? Lots of students, I posted a couple reels recently about silent letters, and lots of students said, Michael, why do we even have these silent letters? And the answer, well, there are two answers. First of all, English, the English language, takes words from so many different languages. We take words from Latin, from French, from Greek, from German, from Arabic, from Russian, from Chinese. We have so many different words from different languages. And sometimes we take the spelling of those words and pronounce them differently. The second reason, and this is the most common reason, is that English spelling hasn't changed. Well, English spelling hasn't changed, but English pronunciation has. So 500 years ago, if you read Shakespeare, the pronunciation of the words will be different. They pronounced the words differently in the past, but they never changed the spelling. So the pronunciation changed, but the spelling stayed the same. And that's why we have these silent letters. Unfortunately, the only way to learn these is to memorize them individually. It's one of those stupid things about English. It's just the way it is. You can go check out my latest reel. I have a few silent letters, a few words with silent letters there. So go check that out on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube as well here. Remember, if you haven't already subscribed here on YouTube, go subscribe here. I'm going to be posting more videos soon. Hello from Vancouver, Canada. Hello. Okay, again, prepositions in, on, or at. It really depends on. See, you have to learn these verbs and these prepositions at the same time. We say depends on, not depends in, not depends onto, depends on. It depends on the context. I'll give you a few examples. In the morning, in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, in the evening. So, there are some rules, especially when we talk about time. When we have a very specific time, like 12 p.m., lunchtime, we use at. For example, at 12, at 3, at 5. When we have times of day, like morning, evening, or afternoon, we use in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon. When we have months, we use in January, in June, in July. When we have years, we also use in. So in 2024, in 1950, in 1500. So normally for bigger things like years, like months, we use in. For days, we use on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, on the weekend. And for very specific times, we use at. So at lunchtime, specific time, at 2, at dinner time. Again, it's super confusing. The only way to learn them is to learn them together, especially when it comes to verbs. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. Again, I'm just reading some wonderful comments from you. It's such a tremendous honor to be able to teach you and to have reached 2 million followers on Instagram. I never thought this would have been possible. I started in 2022, so a bit over a year, and it's been a tremendous journey. So thank you to each and every one of you for supporting me, for learning English from me, and for allowing me to be part of your learning journey. Thank you, everybody. Again, today we talked about speaking with confidence, how to feel less nervous and more confident when you speak. We also talked about some nouns, some adjectives, some verbs to describe your daily routine. And now I'm just answering a few of your questions. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube. You can also join my course. The link to sign up and learn more for my course is in the video description. So go check out the video description here if you want to learn more about my course. When do we use this, those, and these? Great question. So this and these, this is singular, these is plural. So this lesson, these lessons. So we're talking about something close to us. This phone, this cable, right? This, it's close to us. But that and those, that is singular, those is plural. It's something far away from us, farther away. So I could say that door, those lights, right? They're not close to me, they're farther away. This and these, close. That and those, far. How to pronounce, mischievous. Great question. So this word here, I'll write it in the chat. Now, lots of native speakers actually pronounce this word wrong. They say mischievous. But look at this. There's no I before O-U-S. It's not mischievous. Technically, it's mischievous. Mischievous. Now, to be honest, mischievous is one of the most common pronunciations in the US. Is it wrong? Possibly. Do people still use it? Yes. So you'll hear mischievous very commonly, but technically it should be mischievous. It should be mischievous. Sabrine, what does tremendous mean? Tremendous means huge, great, amazing. Like, thank you for your tremendous support. Thank you for your huge support, your great support. You could say there was a tremendous applause at the end of the concert. People were clapping. It was tremendous. It was a huge applause, a great applause. Clap, clap, clap. It was very loud. Tremendous. Okay. Jacqueline, you always avoid conversations in English. That is a big mistake. Remember, if you were here at the beginning, we talked about confidence, about feeling less nervous and more confident when you speak. If you missed that part of our class, then you can always watch the recording of this live stream on YouTube. It will be available on my channel. You can watch it anytime. It's completely public. Basically, when you avoid conversation, when you avoid talking to people, you create what we call a negative feedback loop. So you don't talk to people. When you don't talk to people, you don't improve. You get worse. When you get worse, you feel even more nervous. So you're going down, 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 down. And the solution is to go up. And the way to do this is to break the negative cycle. So if you feel nervous to speak, that's normal, of course. But you use this as an opportunity to improve. You say, okay, I'm going to speak. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. Then you'll speak more. You'll see that nothing bad happens. Nothing bad happens. You'll be more confident. You're more confident. You'll speak more. So you're going up. So again, Jacqueline, you can rewatch the beginning of this live a bit later on that topic. But long story short, it's critical, even if you feel nervous, even if you feel shy, even if you feel embarrassed, you feel uncomfortable, whatever, it's crucial to still get out of your comfort zone, to get into conversation, because that's the only way you're going to improve. Okay. Wonderful. I have time for one last question here, guys. Let's see. How about accent? Many people get confused due to different accents. Yeah. So, good question. Which accent should you learn? Which accent should you learn? Should you learn the British accent, American accent, Australian accent, New Zealand accent? First of all, ask yourself one question. Well, a few questions. But first question, where do you live? If you live in the US, then focus on the American accent. If you live in the UK, then focus on the British accent. But if you don't live in an English-speaking country, let's say you live in Germany, you live in Russia, you live in Japan, wherever, first of all, ask yourself which accent do you have the most contact with. If you're in Japan, you have an American job with an American company, then learn the American accent. If you're in Colombia and you have a lot of British friends, then you might want to learn the British accent. But if you have no contact with native speakers, if you don't know anybody, then you can basically choose which accent you prefer. Some people hate the American accent. They think it sounds annoying. Some people hate the British accent. They think it sounds snobby or pretentious. People have personal preferences. So if you don't live in a country, you don't have any contact with native speakers, just focus on the accent you prefer. But it's honestly not that big of a deal because English is still English. No matter where you are, if you can speak English, people will understand you. So don't focus too much on that. Okay, so can I do live streams on YouTube often? I don't normally do live streams on YouTube. I'm doing one here on YouTube today to celebrate 2 million followers on Instagram. Thank you so much again, everybody. If you came from Instagram, if you came from Facebook, from Twitter, from LinkedIn, from any social media platform, thank you so much for following me, for supporting me, for allowing me to help you improve your English. It's a huge privilege for me to be able to do this. I wake up to so many amazing messages from so many people from all over the world, and I'm really, really grateful for it. So again, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube. If you want to join my club, if you want to join my course, go check out the course in the video description. In the course, you get video lessons from me. So if you like my classes on Instagram, if you like my classes on YouTube, on TikTok, then you will enjoy the course. It's a monthly membership. It's only $19 every month. You get access to a whole video library of more than 60 lessons. You'll also get 2 new video lessons every week. So go check that out in the description. If you join the course, you can also join the club. And the club is for students who want live classes. So in the club, every week you get 2 live masterclasses with me. You get a group class with an amazing teacher on my team. You get the video classes, of course. You get the support from me, from my team. You get lots of other resources as well. So that's the club. We have the course, we have the club. Go check out the course in the description to learn more, to sign up. And if you sign up, you can also join the club. Thank you so much, everybody. Again, it's such a tremendous, there's the word tremendous again, it's such an amazing privilege for me to be able to help you improve your English, to hear from you, to receive so much positive feedback from you. I really, really enjoy what I do, and I couldn't be more grateful for your support. So thank you, everybody, for this amazing live stream today. We talked about confidence, about creating good habits when you speak. We talked about vocabulary, and I had a chance to answer your questions. You can always watch the recording of this live stream later. It will be available on YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to subscribe to English at the Ready on YouTube. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I'll see you very soon. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, anywhere you want, I'm there. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you very soon. Bye, everybody.